6 Days in Fallujah is our next story, and I've got some cool stuff for you guys to cover with this. So let's get right into this, rolling from bullets to combat, and let's talk about 6 Days in Fallujah, a new video game that's been in the works for a really long time. Let's see what's going on here. 6 Days in Fallujah, developer denies U.S. Army recruitment allegations. So in the latest controversy over this video game, now they're saying that 6 Days in Fallujah serves as a tool to recruit, and the developers of the game saying it's more of a tool to educate and almost as therapy for some of the people who were there, okay? So we've seen this type of stuff before. So let's talk about 6 Days in Fallujah. And if you guys have thoughts on video games, particularly military video games, and what their place is, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you guys will let me know. So developer behind the resurrected first-person shooter 6 Days in Fallujah has gone on the record to deny allegations that the game, which follows a squad of Marines during the real-life Second Battle of Fallujah, is intended to be used as a recruitment tool for the United States militaries. I think SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs is probably the biggest recruiter video game that ever came out because it also kind of sucked. So the allegations that the game was meant to entice younger gamers to sign up for military service, which is often glorified in military-themed FPS games, is yet another point of contention in the title's development history, which is already fraught with controversy. So 6 Days in Fallujah was originally announced in 2009. So that's like a couple years after the Battle for Fallujah occurred, by then publisher Konami, which is Japanese, I believe, for a 2010 release. Excessive backlash and subsequent controversy over the game's content resulted in it being postponed for several years, as it was passed like a political hot potato from one developer and publisher to the next. The controversy stemmed from the real-life and equally controversial offensive against al-Qaeda insurgents posted in the city of Fallujah that influenced the game, namely because the battle itself resulted in hundreds of civilian casualties and added to the ire of those who believed that the United States had no reason to be in Iraq in the first place. I don't know. Yeah, well, that's a whole nother context there. As a result, veterans of the Iraq War swiftly condemned the game when it was first announced, and although it was reportedly completed in 2010, the resulting backlash meant it would never make it to shelves. So, in a surprise move, 6 Days in Fallujah managed to find a publisher willing to take on the challenge along with a new developer, as the game and its assets are now over a decade old, and original developer Atomic Games is now defunct or out of business. Developer Highwire Games will bring 6 Days into the 9th generation of consoles, while Victura, which was founded by Atomic Games' former CEO Peter Tante, says the game will hit shelves in 2021. That's this year. Tante's continued involvement may have caused other problems, as PlayStation Lifestyle has reported. There have been allegations the game will be used as a recruitment tool for the Army and other military branches, and this stems from the fact that Tante had previously received money from the CIA while active as the CEO of Atomic Games to develop training simulations for the CIA and the FBI. If you have ever been in one of those simulators, those like convoy simulators with the laser weapons, so you're sitting in your crew serve weapons gunner in a Humvee, and you're surrounded by screens, and you're driving through the simulated battle space, and you're firing your laser weapons at the screen, and fake targets are blowing up. Have you guys ever been in those? I've gotten to do one of those, and it was pretty what's the word? It was pretty rudimentary at the time. It was not very advanced technologically, but I could see how that would be at least training some muscle memory. You're turning the turret, you're firing the weapon, and there's sound effects and there's visual effects and all this stuff, but nothing beats the real thing. Real convoy cruiser weapons training was awesome. So let's see. Let's go down here and see what's going on. We've got the parties involved in the making of the game promised to pay the utmost respect to the subject matter of the game and to feature stories involving both soldiers and civilians to help gamers understand the real cost of the Second Battle of Fallujah. Man, could you imagine the pressure on them to try to make people happy with this game, try to make their customers? It's going to be impossible. They have an impossible task. Nobody's going to be happy with this game. Everyone's going to hate it. This company's probably going to go out of business. I don't see this ending well at all whatsoever. Highwire Games added that players won't always be playing the game as an American soldier and will be taking up the role of an Iraqi citizen, which may help give the game a more balanced approach, but of course that remains to be seen. Obviously, a lot of Iraqi civilians fought against al-Qaeda in Iraq. A lot of Iraqi civilians assisted Americans in Iraq. So that'd be interesting to see that side of it, including the problems that they faced, pressure from families to not get involved, pressure coming down from al-Qaeda that they're going to kill and torture people who help Americans. There's a lot to cover there. The Second Battle of Fallujah maybe further back in the past than it was when it was first announced, but the renewed controversy over its release shows the wounds from the battle in Iraq have hardly begun to heal. While games like Battlefield show that games based on actual warfare can do well, it might be better to let a few decades pass first. this is interesting because what they're doing here is they're trying to make a very, very realistic game about the battle in Fallujah. So we're going to watch a little preview of 6 Days in Fallujah and do it and react to it. And let me show you guys this, and you tell me what you think in the comments as far as, is this game looking like something that's interesting, looking like it's on the right path, or are they really missing the mark here? So tell me what's up.
Saddam had been captured. The Iraqi army scattered. Lawlessness and fear gave Az-Zarqawi his moment, and he was prepared. They seized Fallujah, and the city was the first to suffer under their black banner.
These terrorists were armed to the teeth. No one will fight against them.
It had to be stopped, or the country will turn over to Al-Qaeda.
It was a fortress. It was a well-prepared city, buttressed, waiting for us to come.
The only way you can clear a city is you have to search every house, you have to search every room, and you have to root out every insurgent.
We sustained hundreds and hundreds of casualties. A third of my battalion was killed or wounded.
It was the bunkers they would build inside houses. And you would go in the house, it'd be all quiet. And then they would open up on you or shoot you through a hole in the wall.
If they didn't hit you right away with a machine gun, they would draw you all the way back to the back of the house where there's really nowhere to escape.
There's such a fear, so you're standing in front of the door. You kick down that door, and there's a sense of relief. You only feel it if you survive.
We can tell you our stories. We can show you our scars. But some moments must be experienced.
Whoa, little twist at the end there. It looks like it's going to be a VR game. Looks like that game's going to be in VR.
I think we've done a really good job of appreciating service members. I think we've done a very poor job of telling the actual story of what happened.
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty intense, huh? That was pretty intense. Let me rewind this. So that looks, I'll tell you guys one thing. That looks like Iraq. That looks exactly like Iraq. The colors of the buildings, the textures, the everything shot to shit everywhere. That looks like Iraq. This part here, when they're going through, when they're clearing the buildings,
The bunkers they would build inside houses. And you would go in the house, it'd be all quiet. And then they would open up on you or shoot you through a hole in the wall.
If they didn't hit you right away with a machine gun, they would draw you all the way.
Ooh, that part right there when that guy run. So that gives me the chills looking at that. Holy smokes. Okay, so this is obviously going to focus on what was known as one of the most dangerous parts of the battle in Iraq, which is the house-to-house clearances. So when they were clearing Ramadi, when they were clearing Fallujah, Mosul, Baghdad, it was house-to-house fighting. And that was the deadliest part for the Marines and soldiers in Iraq, was this just house-to-house. And what they would have in there, what Al-Qaeda would have is they would have either they would be on the other side of walls. These places would be rigged up with explosives. They would have little secret compartments built into the ceiling sometimes. So they would like make fake walls or fake ceilings, and they would put somebody up there, and then they would just fire down with the machine gun as people entered the building. And it would take the Americans a while to figure out where the fire is even coming from. So the first few people in the fatal funnel, so to speak, would be just shot right away. And then it would have to dig through and fight room to room, clearing these houses with grenades, machine guns, breachers, explosives, sometimes just driving a truck right through a building. Just drive a truck right through it, you know? Call in airstrikes eventually, mortar them, whatever it was to clear these houses. And I know a lot of the combat took place at, you know, inches. Like, you were fighting people inches away. And I've heard stories, people tell me about, you know, just clearing a building with a shotgun room by room. And I'm really curious what that's going to look like in this game.
To the back of the house where there's really nowhere to escape.
There's such a fear. So you're standing in front of the door. You kick down that door, and there's a sense of relief. You only feel it if you survive.
So there's an insane amount of realism in the way that this looks. And you can see here they have this moment in the trailer. Well, one thing that's interesting is that they're interviewing Iraqis and Americans as the trailer goes on about their experiences. So obviously this game, I just called it a movie. So obviously this game is going to include footage or experiences from actual people. And then there's this moment here at the end where these two guys are clearing this house and are going room to room, and they reach this closed door, and you can see that they have what looks like a Oculus or PlayStation VR controller top as the doorknob there, and he goes to give his buddy the grab to let him know he's there and ready, that they're stacked up on the door, and they both look back at the camera, and that's the signal when you grab your buddy's shoulder and squeeze like that. That's the signal like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. And then he'll open the door and they'll go in to clear the next room. So they're trying to make this a very realistic experience of what guys were doing as they were going room to room as far as training tactics, you know, how it happens in real life, you know, in those houses in Iraq, I don't know. But that's how you would train is, you know, to go up and clear a room like that in what you would call the stack or the train. So what did you guys think about that trailer for that game? Are you interested? Are you going to give it a shot? Are you going to play it? The visuals look extraordinarily accurate to what I remember Iraq being like. We'll see what it was like if you're going to be shooting people in the face from 2 feet away, Iraqis, if they're going to address stuff like civilian casualties and have to deal with that kind of thing, make some sort of ethical decisions in that. I don't know. If you were a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan, would you play that game? Would you give that game a shot? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments down below. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching that clip from our live show. We're live right here on YouTube, Sunday through Thursday, 1800 Pacific Standard Time. If you want, come on by, join the chat. I'd love to hear from you. If you like that video and you want to see more, consider checking out this video right here or subscribing to the channel with this button right here. I look forward to talking to you really soon. I'm out for now.